Chapter 1 of the Dungeon Master's Guide describes 4 tiers of play. Tier 1 is 1st to 4th level, Tier 2 is 5th to 10th level, Tier 3 is 11th to 16th level, and Tier 4 is 17th to 20th level. The Dungeon Master's Guide describes these tiers of play around specific styles of the story, from local heroic games all the way to world mastery games. The D&D Adventurers League actually uses these tiers of play to define the kinds of adventures that you can run for particular characters. So when we think about these tiers of play, there's sort of big jumps in character power from 1st to 4th level, sort of local heroics. 5th level is the point where you start to get spells like Fly and Fireball. 11th level is when you really get into some super heroic stuff, 6th level spells, things like that. And the 17th to 20th is when the characters are fighting gods, they're fighting demons, they're going into the outer planes, they're doing all kinds of crazy things. I argue that there's actually 2 other tiers that matter when we're thinking about these tiers of play. I think 1st level is really its own tier of play, and that's because characters are significantly stronger when they hit 2nd level. There's no power jump greater than the jump between 1st and 2nd level. So when I think about the kinds of adventures characters go on, I try to think of 1st level adventures as being their own thing. I think there's another shift in the game that we don't often consider, and that's the shift at 7th level. When the characters reach 7th level, they get not only greater access to powers that they picked up earlier, but they get access to all new powers that can radically change the game. 2 powers in particular that change combat encounters significantly are Banishment and Polymorph. Both of these spells are true save or suck spells. If a character is hit with Banish, they just disappear. Now, yes, the caster still needs to be concentrating, so if their concentration is interrupted, then whoever they banish comes back. But if they banish an extraplanar entity, as long as they wait out the time, that entity goes away. Also, if they cast Banish on a creature that isn't an extraplanar entity and it's going to come back in a minute, everybody can ready all of their actions for that creature to come back and attack it all at once, and then often get to attack it again. So pretty much a creature that gets banished and comes back is going to come back and die. Polymorph is kind of the same way. You can polymorph a creature into something very small, put it in a box, throw it over a cliff. These 2 spells in particular can radically change combat encounters from what we're used to, and it happens right around 7th level. Now, I'm picking on spells in particular, and I'm picking on those 2 particular spells, but also at 7th level, characters get more access to some game-changing things. So while at 5th level, they just start to get spells like Fly, which can radically change how you run your adventure, they get more access to spells like that. Suddenly, they can cast Counterspell more often than you would expect. They can start to drop a lot of 3rd level spells that they wouldn't normally be able to because they didn't have the spell slots before. So what I have found is that when the characters go into 7th level, it's really a new tier of game. It's a new style of game. And it's something that I need to consider when I'm actually preparing my game. For example, combat encounters could be significantly easier if the characters have access to spells like Polymorph and Banishment. And the obvious reaction to this is to make battles harder. Okay, well, I'll just make my monsters tougher, or I'll put mages in there that can cast Counterspell, or I make sure I have creatures that can burst the concentration and bring them back. But I've talked about before in my video on lightning rods that sometimes that means we want to lean into it. When they have spells like Banish and Polymorph, give them creatures that are specifically designed in the encounter to be banished and polymorphed. It's actually really easy to do, and it's a great way for the characters to show off their ability. But my point in this video is we need to be considering that. We need to remember that about 7th level, the game is going to change. The kinds of things that we're going to have to do to create really challenging encounters is going to have to shift. Because if monsters don't have things like legendary resistance, they're a lot more likely to be hit by these true powerful save or suck spells. So a tool that we DMs should keep in our toolbox is to really think about the level of the characters and what those levels mean in the game, but also be thinking about what the characters are going to bring to the table when they have these new levels. One little trick I like to do is ask the characters what they picked up. Like when they level, ask them, hey, what new abilities did you get? And hopefully they're going to let you know. And when they let you know what new abilities, your job is not to immediately say, okay, well, this is how I'm going to counter those abilities. It's how do I reinforce and show off those abilities? What I've discovered is that while characters are leveling, it's worth considering these new tiers, but there are these 2 extra tiers I think are worth paying attention to. First, I think you should treat 1st level like it's its own tier and tailor and build adventures that are specific to 1st level adventures. But then the other big jump I think is at 7th level. I think at 7th level, it's almost like it's a new tier of game. Characters definitely have a power jump when they hit 5th level, but I think they hit another big power jump when they hit 7th level. So think about the 7th level shift. Think about how you're going to make sure that the game is scaling up so that the types of challenges, the types of stories that you're telling, how they're going to change as the characters bring these new capabilities to the table. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, you can help me out by subscribing to the Sly Flourish newsletter, picking up any of my books, supporting me directly on Patreon, or subscribing to my videos right here on YouTube. Thank you very much and have a great day.